Previously on the BFF podcast.
I just finished my beer. Is it time for another beer?
You know what?
I'm ready for another one. Actually,
We're an hour. Let's go get another one. I'm down with it.
Yeah.
All right.
Vote on my next beer. I'm repping local.
Okay.
Right here.
What is that?
Put it in front of my face so it shows up. We've got an alluvial Aurochs stout with rarsberries.
Ooh.
And that's a big boy. That's actually, like the Crowler size.
30.
Right
Yeah,
there.
that's Crowler. 32
wow.
ouncer. 32 ouncer.
Or Torrent, which is in downtown Ames. This is their Tornadic IPA, and this is just a 16er. So you guys make the call.
I'm gonna say the big boy.
Big boy. Because you know what? If you don't finish it with us on this, the rest of this episode, that means you're gonna have to finish it right after, anyways.
It's 9 o'clock at night, and I get up at 4 to go to the gym and work out.
Oh boy. Well, I guess you're gonna have to work, a few extra calories, and it's okay. Cheers to that, Jeff.
All right, big boy beer.
Yep. Actually, I'm gonna
What are
talk
you
about
doing?
my beer a little
Okay.
bit. I looked at it and I was kind of second guessing. Like maybe I shouldn't do this one because it's a left-hand brewing company. It's out in
Nice.
Colorado. Yep.
Yep.
And it's a imperial stout.
Nice.
And
There you
That's
go.
what the Aurochs is. The Imperial. It's an Imperial Stout,
Man, you guys.
9.6 ABV.
yeah. As soon as I saw imperial, I was like, oh, this is gonna be. Then I looked at the ABVs, 9.0, not as strong as yours, Jeff, but man.
I had to do the back pocket again. That's the only beer I have right now in the fridge. I'm doing the back pocket brewing again. The dark lager slingshot dunkel.
So is Back Pocket, is that out of the Des Moines area, or is that one of the Iowa City ones?
I believe it's one of the Iowa Coralville. I think.
Yeah, Coralville.
All right.
So-
Somebody might. Yeah. If anybody listen to this, comment or respond, let me know. I think it's Coralville though. I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's another one in Iowa City and Solon.
I got tip on my tongue. I know what you're talking about. Fudge.
Yeah, back pockets out of Coralville, and what was the?
There's
I'm
another
trying
one
to
out
think
there. Yeah,
The
I know.
one out of Solon.
Yeah.
Big
another-
Grove.
Yes.
Oh,
Big Grove. Big Grove.
Grove.
Yep.
They have great beer.
They do.
Get to Southwest Iowa, Keg Creek makes some really solid beer.
Yes, they do.
And you're going to be up in Mesa. Are you going to be up in Clear Lake?
Yeah,
Lake Time makes some.
Lake Time.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
that Oreo, was it Oreo Speedwagon Oreo
Yep,
one?
Oreo Speedwagon.
Oreo Speedwagon, sorry.
Yes.
But no, that's a good one.
I just had their their double IPA. I forgot what it was called. Oh man, that one's a doozy, but I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just foreshadowing, I don't know if this because we might as well just do a second episode. If you have time, Jeff. What we'll do, we can just split up. It doesn't even matter. Well, I'll let Fishing Kit decide on that. But we can foreshadow in a sense. You know Bruno, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm not like friends like Ross is friends with him, but I've met him and yeah, I know who Bruno is.
Yeah,
So, are you-
I mean, anybody who's in the craft beer industry in Iowa, I mean, they know him. So
Yes.
I actually got the confirmation that we're gonna have him on. So we're gonna talk
nice.
with him.
He's going to
probably-
drop a lot more beer knowledge than
That's-
me, but
well-
I better have more fishing knowledge than him, or we're in trouble.
But that's okay. Hey, we are called Beer Fish Fanatics. It's not one or the other. It's both of them. So
Yep.
we talk about both. We love both. So, but no, Fishing Kit. I think you had a question before we had to go and restock. What was your question, sir?
Oh yeah. So there's this survey kind of going around Facebook right now. I'm pretty sure you've probably seen or heard something about it, but there's a flathead petition going around. I think the conditions is like they're trying to get this petition signed for changing the regulation for flatheads for being 1 over 30 inches,
Okay.
I believe. So like how does something like that, like to the DNR, is that like something you guys look at or even would consider?
So let's go back to the bluegill bag limit. So we were talking about that earlier in the recording.
Mhm.
There was an active group out of the Iowa Great Lakes area that was pushing their state representative to have these bag limits changed. And in general, I feel like we should let the science and the data tell us what we should be doing about bag limits rather than a social experiment.
Right, right.
And honestly, like I said, in order to actually make a difference in terms of harvest, we would have had to cut it down to 5. A 25 fish bluegill and crappie bag limit is a social limit. It's not that's a social regulation. It's not a biological regulation. So you ask me about flatheads. 3% of anglers in the state of Iowa fish for flathead catfish. So we've got 300,000 anglers. So out of 100,000 anglers, we've got out of 100 anglers, there's 3. Out of 100,000, there's 300. So there's not a ton of flathead anglers out there. Okay. There are a lot more flathead catfish than there are flathead catfish anglers. Do we understand the interest in flathead catfish regulations? Absolutely. Do we think that it's worthwhile to protect those bigger fish? You bet. Do we think that there is an over harvest problem of those fish right now? No. The data tells us that we do not have an over harvest issue with flathead catfish at this juncture.
Okay.
No, that's fair. That's definitely fair because you guys have the data and us as like you're saying, the general public, and I mean, we're just kind of going off of what we see, and
we're
kind of like on the outside looking in.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And absolutely, there is an active interest group of flathead anglers that would like to see more of those fish protected, and we understand that, and we hear that, and we look at the data and say, is it justified for us to add a regulation that is potentially unnecessary because we aren't seeing a problem in that population that needs to be regulated? And so that's where, like I said in the beginning, our regulation book is this thick, and other states' regulations books are this thick. Do we need to over-regulate that? And I'm not saying we wouldn't consider it, but at this juncture, we don't feel that it's necessary. But if people really want it, absolutely, we'll look at it. We'll address it. And I'm giving you right now some of the data, or some of the information from the data we have collected in the past as to what would or wouldn't be involved in making that decision.
No, that makes sense. No, that's I mean, because like you said, a lot of people they just see what they see, and they're just gonna have their own judgment, but then not having the data, like you're saying, I think that definitely helps. I kind of want to go into a little bit more of your job a little bit, because we were talking about that. Was so when you go out to the lake, so you guys do the netting and all, you do the netting and all that stuff too, correct?
So I do precious little of that. Since like we were talking about before, this new data system and stuff, I'm actually doing a lot of it this year because I'm going out and helping and training and doing stuff like that.
Cool.
But on a normal year, I don't get to do as much of that, but we do a lot of that. That's important to us to go out to sample these systems, to get a feel for what's out there, and to be able to provide that information to our anglers.
So when you guys are doing the netting stuff, can you I'm curious because I see I follow the Iowa DNR and everything on Facebook. I see all those pictures of these are monsters. I mean, you guys are I don't know how you guys net, or you guys obviously know where to freaking take the damn net first of all. But I swear, I look at it, I'm like, no way that's from that freaking lake. There's no way that's from, and then bear in mind, it's right there. I'm just like, okay, so how do you guys figure out where to net, and how does that work? How do you guys get them?
Okay, so we do a variety of different things. In the spring, a lot of fish species go shallow to spawn. So in the spring, we take our shocking boats and we go and we sample for bass and bluegill and sometimes crappie in the spring with electrofishing. We target those fish species in these lakes to weigh them, to measure them, to count them, to see the health, to see how many of them there are, etc. And we will break a lake up into different zones, and we will do a 15-minute shocking run in each zone just to get an overall sample of what's going on in the lake. And so for those species, we sample in the spring. We don't see any catfish when we do that. So in the summer, we set what we call baited hoop nets, and we put, just like there's stink bait when you go fishing for catfish, we put some bait like that in these nets, and that attracts the catfish, and the catfish swim into the nets. And again, we will set nets in 4 or 6 or 8 different spots in the lake, and we'll come back a couple days later and pull the nets and, weigh, measure, count, etc., everything else for those catfish. This time of year right now is when we do our panfish netting. So we again will set nets in 4, 6, 8 locations throughout a lake, and we'll set them along the shore, and it's a passive thing. We just put the net out there, and the fish will swim across. And as they're swimming the shoreline, they'll hit that net and they'll go sideways, and then they'll swim into the part of the net that captures them. And we don't, other states will set what are called gill nets that hold the fish by their gills, but will kill the fish. We don't do that here in Iowa. We set nets that we let the fish go at the end, and they go back into the system, and they're perfectly fine. So our bike netting in the fall is for crappies and bluegills and red ears and stuff like that. And so then we sample all those fish in the fall. So we're trying to sample all the different fish species that are in that system to get a handle on what's going on with each one, if there's anything we need to do for that lake or for our particular species. We also do targeted things for walleyes and yellow bass in certain systems. We do targeted things for muskies. So yeah, there's a lot going on. In some of our big natural lakes like Spirit Lake and Okoboji, we go out and do what we call a beach seine to look at the young of the year fish, the newly hatched fish in the summer, and we count those fish. And we've been doing this honestly in some systems for almost 100 years. Wow. And so when you do that year in and year out, you get a handle on what can we expect with what we see right now for the anglers to be able to catch. And when you do it in a consistent manner year after year, then you can build, comparison trends through time. And so there's a lot of science to what we're doing to try and manage the fisheries that you guys get to utilize.
So what's this catfish bait?
It's
love that. That was awesome, man.
So what we use is called soybean cake, but we leave it out there for 3 days. It's not that smelly, and it stays. So unless you're going to sit there for 3 days with, it on your hook, you probably want something commercial that's a little more stinky and might get them to react faster.
Okay. As someone that targets catfish, I'm like, huh? You guys, what is this secret catfish bait?
You're right. Like, okay, I saw the walleye you guys did it. What did you guys? No, I got that. I got that. That stinky.
But now, getting back to what you said about the pictures of the fish.
Yeah.
Everybody loves pictures of big fish. So when we get big fish, we take pictures of big fish to put it on the internet so you guys can see it.
Absolutely. Oh,
yeah.
But the funny thing that goes along with that is, so like Prairie Rose Lake, I was looking at the data from like the last 5 years, just a couple days ago. And when we do our bluegill sampling over there, we have never sampled in our nets or shocking a 10-inch bluegill at Prairie Rose Lake. But I've caught them there. I mean, I know a half a dozen or more people who have all gone to Prairie Rose and caught a master angler 10-inch plus bluegill. So the thing is, we sample great big fish with our nets and our shocking and everything else. I guarantee you there are bigger fish out there than we catch, because I mean, we know that. You look at what anglers catch, and anglers always catch bigger fish in those systems than what we get in our sampling, because we have certain restrictions on what we do and how we do it. And so it's not that our sampling gives a true reflection of what's there, but it doesn't always get like the big outlier fish that are there, because they tend to not hang out necessarily in the shallower water where we shock or something like that. So I guarantee, and we've actually done some research looking into this, there are almost always more and bigger fish in these systems than our surveys actually show. But if our surveys show that there's big fish there, then that's probably a place you want to go, because you're probably even going to do better than what our surveys show.
Good to know.
I mean, that's one of, I'm a researcher, and I'm in our research section of the Fisheries Bureau. And so these are questions that I want to try and figure out. I've actually looked at, I do a lot with our tournament program too. And I've looked at what are the catches that are reported by our tournament anglers versus what are the things that we see in our surveys. And they're always catching bigger fish than what we see in our surveys. Same thing with our master angler program. Tons of big fish being caught that we don't necessarily see those biggest fish in our surveys, but a lake that you're getting a lot of master angler catches from, we also see a lot of bigger fish, not as big as they're catching, but there's a greater proportion of those bigger fish in those systems. They reflect each other, but anglers certainly catch more bigger fish than what we are observing in our unbiased sampling.
Yeah, and that master angler program is awesome. I think people really love it. I think it's a chance for them to kind of show off their their catch. Obviously, I think I think more people should submit, because like you're saying, because they don't realize they're helping the data, right? In a sense,
Absolutely.
So Kit, yesterday, you're supposed to submit that when you catch a freaking 19-inch white bass. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
Man, this guy.
Yeah,
But
I should.
Yeah, but no, it's true. So when people are listening to this podcast, I want you guys to know, you get a little recognition and everything, but on top of that, you're helping the data, so you can help yourself in the future in regards to
and I oversee a lot of the technology projects for Iowa DNR, especially on the fishery side of things. So the whole master angler program is something that's one of my babies. The lake survey data is one of my babies. The fishing atlas is one of my babies. So yeah, all kinds of good stuff out there.
Can you talk about like the tagging program? Is that part of the sampling and survey stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Any fish that we tag, it has been we tagged it as part of our survey, or if it's sometimes we put tags in the flesh of the fish, especially the muskies. That we the technology is basically the same as if you walk out of Walmart and there's those tags that they deactivate so they don't set off the alarms when you walk out of Walmart. We put those same kind of tags in fish, and so those are individualized tags that we put in the fish. So when we get a fish while we're sampling, we can run a detector over top of that fish and see if it's come from our hatchery, which fish it is, when did we stock it, how much has it grown, all that kind of stuff. So we keep records of all that kind of stuff with tags that you may not see, but then we also have the tags that you do see on a number of fish too.
Yeah, I know that there's like reward programs for some of those too.
We had a program at Big Creek and Brushy Creek with some of our muskies and walleyes. That's not that has been, I don't want to say terminated. It was a thing we were doing with a particular research project, and we're moving on from that research project at this time.
Okay.
At Big Creek, if you fished that, when you go down the canal, there's this big fish barrier at the spillway to keep the fish in the lake. So we were doing a comparative study between Big Creek and Brushy Creek Lake, just because we did not have a fish barrier at Brushy Creek. And what the project showed us was, yes, a lot of walleyes and muskies leave when you don't have the fish barrier. And when you do have the fish barrier, it prevents them from leaving. We kind of knew that would be the case, but we are a science-based organization.
Mhm.
You don't like say, by golly, I know this is how it's going to be, so we're just going to go put these fish barriers everywhere. No, we need the science. We need the data. We need to be able to prove scientifically, yes, this works. This is the degree to which it works. This is what we need to do if we want to improve these systems. And so now we're actually, this summer, we drew down our Brushy Creek Lake, and we installed a fish barrier at Brushy Creek, like the one we have at Big Creek, to improve the fishing there, to keep more walleyes and muskies in that system instead of swimming out when the water gets high.
That
So,
makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But speaking of muskies, so just I just want to, just for my own personal reward, we're going up to Clear Lake this weekend. So we've never caught a muskie. I've never caught a muskie. I don't think. Have you ever caught a muskie, Kit?
Nope.
So we're going to Clear Lake. Any advice for us? We're going up to Clear Lake that you would recommend that we can possibly catch this dinosaur, this unicorn of a fish by chance? Where, location or lure, anything, man. Anything, Jeff, that you could give us right now? Because I have been, honestly, I haven't really targeted muskies, but I've always wanted to catch a muskie. So
you ever talk to the fishing guide, when you go on a trip and he says you should have been here last week?
Oh, shoot.
Kind of deal. So here's the deal. Especially in late summer, August and September, those muskies lie underneath the docks in Clear Lake.
Really?
It's October. 90% of the docks are out already.
Oh, they are.
So when I say you should have been here last week, my educated guess is that that habitat, that dock that was providing them, a hiding spot habitat is not there anymore. So they are on the move. And so in August and September, when it's easier to target muskies on Clear Lake, you've missed that window.
Oh,
well, now we know. I know, man. Now we know. Now we know. But I mean, we still have a chance. But it's like,
yes, absolutely, you have a chance. There's a fantastic population, but the easiest time to catch them was not last week, but last month.
Gotcha.
So,
wow.
So I don't mean to throw water on the fire, but I don't want you to think, my goodness, we're going to go catch a muskie this weekend. No, I think that there are better times.
Gotcha.
To do that. Now, it's a fantastic time to catch a muskie different places. And you should talk to my buddy Pete Hildreth with Iowa Muskie Guide Service, and he'll put you on muskies. Okay. He really will. He's fantastic. I got a bunch of buddies in the muskie world. I've never caught one either. I went out with Pete one day though. Yep. A buddy of mine and I hired Pete. Pete donated a fishing trip and on an auction, and I bought it. And so we went and we had a couple of follows, and it was super cool. It was awesome. We fished Brushy Creek, and I'm gonna go again one of these days. But it's just this is not the time. There's a time in life for everything, and right now is not my time in life for that.
Gotcha.
But and this weekend on Clear Lake may not be your time for catching a muskie. But catch some of them monster crappies up there. That I would target the little lake. I would target around the cattails. I mean, Kevin's going to take you where you need to go. But
we're not going to fish with Kevin. I think I don't know if he's busy or not, but we'll see. But we told him we'll swing by the store. We'll swing by and see him real quick, and then he'll get us on something. But we were just gonna go to explore because I think Fishing Kit here, she's just gonna go camp a couple nights up there, and my kids only allow me one day, so I get to go Sunday all day, hopefully, and then that's about it.
So where are you gonna camp? You gonna camp at McIntosh or Clear Lake State Park?
Probably Macintosh.
I think that's best.
Yeah.
I think if you're fishing the little lakeside Macintosh, just get your kayak and go out and around all of the different kind of, there are, I don't know if you want to call them pods of cattails and reeds all the way around, out from there. And I think the fish are going to be congregated around those things. And then if you go out into the big part of the lake, go around the point and into the big part of the lake, in the reeds along Macintosh and along the north shore along there, I think you probably catch fish there too. You may not have to leave the little lake at all, though, at all.
Oh, hey, that would just make it easier.
Yeah. And then, because I think obviously we just want to catch whatever, but I think we're definitely going to target yellows. And if we can get a muskie, that was going to be icing on the cake. But I think that's good to know for next year, though.
Okay. So I'm telling you, though, target crappies, really.
Okay.
So it's been a few years ago now, but some of my coworkers and I had an annual trip to Clear Lake every year in May. We would go to the island, we'd grab our waders, go to the island, fish out off of the point, and catch the heck out of yellow bass. And then the yellow bass they just kind of dropped down a little bit. So one year we weren't doing well there. We went over to the little lake and we started wading out around the cattails and everything. And I got into one little nook, and I swear I was catching 12-inch crappies.
Wow.
Time after time after time after time. And everybody else is like, what the heck is he doing? And I'm catching some stinking nice crappies is what I'm doing.
Yeah. The first time I started catching those Clear Lake crappies, I was like, wow, I was surprised.
This is
like, how come nobody talks about this?
Yes. And the bluegills have gotten pretty awesome too. And there's really, the largemouth and smallmouth population in Clear Lake has really exploded. It's still known as a walleye lake, but the bass, bluegill, crappie in Clear Lake are really remarkable.
Would you say that's one of the best lakes? Because I guess because I think all the lakes have their pros and cons, I guess, in a way. So I was gonna say, is that one of the best fisheries? But I just really think all of Iowa lakes is really amazing when it comes to fishing. So I guess
there are fantastic opportunities at Clear Lake. East Okoboji isn't a fantastic lake. It's shallow. It's kind of murky. You can catch 17 master angler yellow bass in an afternoon. It's just like boom, pull, boom, boom, boom. And the muskies in East Okoboji are phenomenal.
Really?
Crazy. I used to go up there to do our walleye netting, and I didn't know it. It was a big DNR critic kind of guy, big muskie angler. I didn't know him. Somebody asked if I'd be willing to take him out in my boat, and I said, sure. I don't know if he'd caught 5 muskies in his life in East Okoboji, and we took him out, and he's like, oh my goodness, there are all these muskies in East Okoboji. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. West Okoboji is a fantastic fishery. The bluegills in there are phenomenal. Smallmouth in Big Spirit Lake, walleye in Big Spirit Lake, yellow perch in Big Spirit Lake. Like you say, there are fantastic fisheries everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you just want to catch an awesome fish, there's a 5-pound carp within 10 minutes of every Iowan.
Agreed.
Seriously.
Agreed.
And that fish in, a small stream or a medium-sized river will make your heart skip a beat the way it's fighting in a stream. We have untapped opportunities like crazy.
Yeah, I heard there's like huge, like channel cats, like bigger than your average Iowa catfish up at the IGLs, where I'm talking about like double-digit pounders.
Absolutely, there are. I've had them in my hands. No question. If you go on the north side of Spirit Lake, the northwest corner, big sandy beach out from the northwest corner, And we've seen them in our nets that are just toads, just huge. Like go jug fishing out there, or set up overnight with a bunch of chicken livers or whatever. You will catch monster catfish. But the same thing, I can tell you the exact same thing. You could do that exact same thing around the mile-long bridge on Sailorville. I mean, if you go drift fishing up in there, now it's gotten more and more filled in with sediment. It used to be you'd go just north of it, but now you might want to be more around it, kind of thing. But there are stinking big catfish in Sailorville too, and great big flatheads. I mean, like I've held in my arms 60-pound flatheads.
Flatheads?
Oh, man.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I didn't know enough to know whether it would break the record or not, but I took one to Johnson Bait and Tackle to get it weighed because we knew it really, really big might be a record. Guy was out there fishing for hybrids and had a 60+ pound flathead.
Was he using a spoon? I think I've seen pictures of that fish.
Probably not this fish, but there's been more than one.
Okay.
So Sailorville, Kit, and we're gonna go get some flatheads because we haven't. I don't think I've never really targeted flatheads. Like Jeff, you're right. I think about that. There's not that many flathead targeting or anglers. You're right on that.
No, there's not. I mean, the ones that do are pretty serious about it.
Yes, I agree. Yes,
this guy,
far between.
Mr. River certified. Yes, Mr. Spencer. He's definitely watching his channel and everything. It's definitely makes me want to. I just the only thing is like it seems like they only bite at night, so I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to stay overnight at times or stay too late with the kids. So I still got too many kids.
I'm right
too
there
young.
with you, man. 3 daughters.
I got you beat, Jeff. I got 4. I got 7, 5, 3, 8 months old daughters.
You're crazy.
I know, man. They say it all the time, man. They go, yeah.
Mine are 16, 12, and 9.
Ooh, I'll be there one day pretty soon.
Few more years.
I'll be there, and then I'll have that extra little nugget on the bottom. So she's getting a little big too. But nope, they my fishing times is limited, so I have to watch his channel to get my fishing. I know, whatever you call it, jollies in, watching.
I had to sell my boat and buy a kayak because I spend so much time in the spring with my kids playing sports that I sold my boat, man.
But the kayak, the kayak thing I like it because you can just literally drop it anywhere and go, and you're on the water.
And you don't have to winterize your boat, winterize your motor, maintain your trailer, all this other. I'm like, when the time comes, I'll have a boat again, but I don't use my boat enough to justify having it. We've got 5 kayaks. There's 5 of us, my wife and 3 daughters, and we have 5 kayaks. So
that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you fish out of your kayak then?
I have one that is mine that I specifically fish out of. Yeah.
We got to get together. We got to get together with Jeff. Then we got to go somewhere. Cause you live up in Ames, right? You still?
I do.
Up?
Yep.
Okay. So hey, you know what we got to do, Kit? Now,
Ames ain't too far.
No, but he did tell us where's the good wiper spot. We got to go there because it's up there.
You got to work hard though, and it's more of a summer fishery where you see them busting the shad on the surface. So
okay.
Well, here's the crazy thing. Here's the crazy thing about that Ada Hayden fishery. The rainbow trout that we stock in the winter in Ada Hayden, Ada Hayden is cool enough and deep enough that those fish survive over the summer. And in the summer, the wipers and the rainbow trout school up together and attack the shad together.
Wow.
Really?
Yes.
Holy crap, man. How come you didn't tell me, Kit?
I heard it's a tough place to fish, just like you said, it's tough.
And so like you're out in your kayak somewhere and all of a sudden 200 yards away, you see the surface start busting. Your kayak, paddle. By the time you get there, they've moved on. It's tough.
It's okay.
It's tough.
Still got to try it now though. You got
no pain, no gain.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, you can't catch them at home.
That's right.
Hey, man.
That's right.
I'll take another refill later. Maybe. If it depends on how the game goes. I'm recording it, so we'll see. Oh, by the way, I didn't say anything about this, but everybody, this is how important Jeff is to us tonight. I am not watching a minute of the Bears game right now that they're playing right now. So I completely said,
well, it's a good thing that you got me on a Thursday night, because Saturday I like to watch the Bears. I like to watch the Packers. I like to watch the Chiefs. I'm a Cyclone fan.
Hey,
okay. That takes all my energy. I don't have the energy to be an NFL fan of any team because all my energy goes into being a Cyclone fan.
I understand. I actually went to Iowa State, but I was that guy that went to Iowa State that's a Hawkeye fan. So you can just imagine my buddies completely hating on me the whole time. So
you were the guy that if I saw you playing hoops in the rec, I'd probably throw an elbow.
Yeah, because I would be that guy that's wearing you serious wearing an Iowa shirt playing basketball in the rec center. I was that guy, but yeah, it's all right. But hey.
And I was that guy that just give you a little extra.
But hey, you guys beat Oklahoma in 60 plus years. That was a good game last week. And I root for Iowa State no matter what, as long as it's not when they're playing Iowa. So
how many fans were at that game last weekend? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. Was it 10, 15,000? They say
13,000 and change.
You were there?
Nice. Hell yes, I don't miss.
It's been 60 years. That's a lot of people don't realize that's a lifetime.
It is.
It's a lifetime since the last time you guys beat Oklahoma. That's
in Ames.
In Ames.
60 years since we beat them in Ames.
But still, I don't care. That's 60 years, man.
That's a long time.
So no, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yep. But we got to get with you because I don't mind. I want to go check out like Fishing Kit says. I like to try new bodies of water and just kind of fish it out. But now hearing because we've seen
offline, I've got another place for us to go fishing. Okay, but it's kind of small. I don't want like everybody going there, but there's another place we should maybe go check out in the really near future.
Sounds good, sir. Sounds good.
I ain't mad at that.
Yeah,
I know things.
I think he knows a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
One or two things.
One or two things. You got anything else we're keeping, this is awesome because we're going to obviously split this into 2 episodes but this is badass to me because I have gained so much knowledge.
Ask the questions. I'll provide the answers.
Go ahead, Kit.
All right. So with the fish sampling and tagging fish and stuff, can the average angler volunteer their time to help? Because I think I know of some people that have done it. I wasn't sure if you need some kind of, I don't know, what's the deal with that?
Okay, so especially when we're working on walleyes and stuff in the spring, that's when we take volunteers. So more often than any other time of the year, like when we're doing our shocking in the spring, if let's say we are going to what's an example? Well, here in Ames, there's a little McFarland Park is northeast of town. Mm-hmm. It's a little county conservation board area. We'll call up the county conservation board and say, hey, somebody want to come out and help us shock. And so we'll get those folks to help us shock for a day or, an evening or whatever. It doesn't happen as often, like with our shocking and stuff. Mm-hmm. But when we're working on walleyes and stuff in the spring, that's when we need more volunteers, when we can use more help. Now, having said that, with COVID and everything else, we've really pulled back right now. So we aren't even working with each other, our coworkers very much right now. We're very separated. And it may be, a year or longer before we kind of get back into that mode of having people come and help us, because we just don't know how this thing's going to go. If we're going to take help in the spring when we're doing walleyes at night at a place like Big Creek or Brushy Creek or something like that, that's when and where we do that.
Oh, because yeah, that's something like I want to do. Like I want to see, the process, and I want to
Yeah.
see big fish. I'll bring my GoPros and stuff. Like I just want to
Well,
see it all.
so you talked to Ross earlier this week, maybe?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ross has been out with me at Big Creek, and he had his GoPro and everything else. And then he provided all that stuff to our other friend, Andy Fales, and he had that on Channel 13 News. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Man.
Have you guys had Andy on? Have you talked to him
Not
at all?
not yet. I'm working on that. I'm still
Yeah,
working, slowly going up the food chain
Yeah,
of
Andy's a good
amazing
dude.
knowledge.
He loves to fish.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
I'll definitely reach out to Andy because I was working on that. But actually, I want to talk to you a little bit. Bringing Ross up is your podcast. So it was so cool because I know you sent it to me, and I've actually ran into your guys' podcast about a month. Like I was telling you, I ran into about a month or two ago. I was like, I had no idea that you guys had this podcast. So if anybody was wondering, like it was just an Iowa DNR. I was like, what the heck? And I ran to, and then I just ran to Ross, and then I ran to you, and then I was just like, holy cow, this podcast is so informative. How did you guys come up with it? Can you just tell people who are listening to this that what is your podcast all about and everything?
Okay, so every month, and we've been doing this since 2016 or 2017.
That's what he
We're
said.
almost,
Yep.
I mean, we do a monthly, not, whatever. So when you go month by month, we're almost to 50 episodes now.
Nice.
And when you're once a month, that you've been doing it for a while.
That's a long time,
yeah. So we get together and we talk about what's going on fishing in the state of Iowa. I've got, I know all the fish guys around the state, so we know what's going on. We talk about fish, we talk about fishing, we talk about where we've been fishing and how that's gone, where you ought to think about going fishing this next month. And we do try to integrate like fish science. So you guys asked about bag limits. We've talked about bag limits. We've talked about slot limits. We've talked about, the one over, all that kind of stuff. I try to integrate fish science into our podcasts. And we also talk to a variety. I mean, I know fish people all over the world. So like this last month, we talked to the past president of the American Fisheries Society about the impacts of climate change on fisheries. Earlier this year, I've got a buddy at the University of Nebraska who's studying the channel catfish in the Red River of the North between Minnesota and North Dakota. That's probably the premier catfish fishery maybe in the world.
Wow.
And so we talked to him. I've got a friend who is a Lake Michigan salmon biologist. And so we've talked about the salmon fishery in Lake Michigan. We've talked to the next world record brown trout will be caught out of Lake Taneycomo in Missouri. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That fish already exists in that system. It just takes somebody catching it. They've broken the world record, or they've broken the state record 4 times this year.
Wow.
Whoa.
And the world record is living in that system. So the guy that runs the trout hatchery on Lake Taneycomo, we had him on last year. So, I mean, we have really cool guests. We're planning on, I don't know if you guys know much. I mean, crappie fishing is pretty awesome. And if you get down south, crappie fishing in the winter can be phenomenal. You're catching 3, 4, 5 pound crappies left and right. And so one of my co-hosts, Tyler Stubbs, who's our urban biologist in Des Moines, he used to be a biologist in Mississippi, where the big 4 crappie fisheries are in Mississippi. And we're going to have one of the managers from down there on later this fall and talk about crappie fishing down south. So, I mean, we have guests from all over the place just talking about cool fishing stuff. So, yeah, cool. Talk about Iowa stuff, talk about Midwest stuff, talk about places around the Midwest and around the country you should go fishing. Yeah, so that's what we do. It's pretty awesome. We have a great time.
And I'll have Fishing Kit put the link to the podcast in the show notes and everything. So it's pretty cool. No, it's I'm definitely listening every month now. It's like it's very informative. I love it. I mean, if you're a fisherman, if you're a true fisherman, you're gonna want to listen to it. That's all. That's all I have to say.
Right, and so another one of my baby projects is the Iowa DNR, the weekly fishing report that the Iowa DNR sends out. So that is I designed the database behind that and where that goes out. And on the DNR fishing report webpage is a link to all of the historic fishing report podcasts that Ross and I have been doing for the last many years.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, I'll be sure to put all that stuff up too.
And I think your weekly when you sign up to get that the newsletter, all my in-laws in Denver, Colorado, literally they are that's how into it. They subscribe, so they're like they get excited when they get that newsletter. They're like, "Are we going to Iowa this weekend or not?" And they literally they do check that out, and it's kind of cool. It literally it's all the major lakes, all the major rivers, points, and everything. So I know that takes a lot of work. A lot of people don't realize that takes a lot of work. Yeah.
And, there are other states, like if you go to the Outdoor News for Minnesota, they have a fishing report. Well, that's from the bait shops, So there's a vested interest from someone to get you to go somewhere and try to fish. This is from in Iowa. It's from our biologists and our DNR fisheries staff. We want you to go fishing, but we don't have a vested interest in saying, "Oh yeah, you better come here and buy this bait from my bait shop." That's not how it goes.
Yeah,
we want you to go catch fish. We're asking questions of people. We're getting reports from our state park staff, from bait shops, people that are in the know, and we're providing that information so people can go and catch more fish, because that's what we want. We want people to catch fish.
Yeah, I noticed like when I've been traveling to different states to fish, just to try out different fisheries, and I try to look at their fishing reports, and like they're kind of like outdated. I was like, wow, like I guess I'm just used to our fishing reports was just like every week, but let's say I look at Kansas. Their stuff is like 3 weeks old, a month old. I was like, this doesn't really help.
Right. No, we do ours every week. Every week. Yep.
No, it's I think we're spoiled, man. I'm not gonna lie, it. Iowa fishing, because I lived in California for like 12, 13 years for a while, and then I moved back. I'm telling you, the fishing, I mean, it's great. It's fine over there in California. It's not like Iowa. Something about the Iowa, like you're saying, the water, the nutrients, everything. It's the fishing here is phenomenal. So there's a reason why people from around the states, they come here to fish. So, but you got anything else? I mean, man, you got some banger questions, man. It's awesome. But if not, it's all good. I mean, because, man, 2 hours. This is going to be FYI, Jeff. This is probably the longest podcast we've done with anyone. So it's
we haven't even talked about trout.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm pretty spoiled with trout because I think I did a podcast, we were talking about trout before, but Colorado trout is really nice.
It is.
So
but I tell you what, when you go to fish for a trout in Colorado,
yes.
Let's say you are going to go fishing for a trout tomorrow, and you have a choice to fish in Colorado for a trout, which is going to be awesome. But when you look up around you, yes, you see mountains, but you also only see aspen leaves that are golden. Now, if you go in Northeast Iowa tomorrow and fish for a trout, you're going to catch an equivalent trout, and the environment around you when you catch that fish is going to be breathtaking.
Yeah, I used to make that trip like a couple times a year. I haven't done it in a while.
Up in the Backbone area? Is that
everywhere? Every
right
trout stream has phenomenal
I give you
trees around it.
Yes.
Every last one of them, because they're all protected to some degree. If there are trout in that stream, it's because the land use is not just row crop, but there's also timber and everything else. And if there's timber, you're going to be in a place where the trees tomorrow are phenomenal, out of this world. And rivers in Iowa in general, when you are driving across the landscape, you see one thing. When you're floating a river in Iowa, you don't see the same thing. Everything is different when you're in a river. Everything is different when you're in a trout stream. You feel like you're in a different place.
Yeah, they call that area the driftless area, right?
Yes, absolutely. You're correct. Great call right there. That the driftless means that was not covered over by the last glacier. So it's a lot older landscape, a lot more rock, less of that really super productive topsoil, a lot more rock, a lot more timber, a lot more rugged, because it wasn't flattened out by the last glacier.
Yeah, that's why it looks so different compared to the rest of Iowa.
It does. Absolutely, it does. It's super cool.
I agree. When
I have to go up there, so when I go up there and help them out, you can't see this on the screen, but I'm 6'7", 260, not a small guy. The big beer doesn't look that big in my hand.
It doesn't,
right.
So I go up there and help them collect the trout for going in the hatchery. Well, they've got this great big, it's not great big, it's like a 4x8 sheet of plywood size barge shocker that they have to pull through the trout stream. So they invite me up to help them because they need somebody big and dumb to just pull that thing upstream, while they do the real work. They walk around and they shock the fish and they gather the fish and all that stuff. And they're just like, hey, can you come up and help us so you can drag the barge upstream? Whatever. It's fun though, because it gets me out of behind my computer screen and actually out in the landscape and on the water, and where things are pretty awesome.
All right. I think because I think we're gonna have to do some more camping trips up there, Kit. So
absolutely. Backbone, Waterloo Creek is pretty phenomenal. And a float trip on the Upper Iowa. You need to take your kids and do a float trip on the Upper Iowa.
Okay. I'll have to jot that down. Once the 8-month-old is old enough, I'm definitely going to be doing more and more of those trips. So.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Hey, my battery's about to run out on my camera.
Oh, my battery's about out on my laptop.
Oh, that's a good thing, man. That means that we all had fun and we're learning stuff. So that's cool, man. So, man, Jeff, we got to have Jeff back on. I mean,
absolutely, anytime. I'd love to do this again.
Because you're giving amazing knowledge to me. I feel like you're just giving amazing knowledge in a good way that a lot of the general public like myself had no idea about. So it's awesome. So
yeah, this is all priceless. Like I think so. Taking it all in.
Yeah.
Anytime. I'm happy to share, happy to come on. I love doing this because I want people to fish. I want people to enjoy Iowa's natural resources. I want everybody to catch more fish all the time.
Cool. So other than that, man, we'll definitely have Jeff back on. But we've kept him way too long, so I totally apologize that. But you know what? Not really, because there's a lot of information. What you got, Kit? Go ahead. All
right. So before we close out for today, so if people want to contact you, Jeff, your social media, Twitter, whatever, your podcast, you just want to throw that stuff out there.
Yep.
You bet. So my Twitter is at Jeff Kopaska, and DNR jeff.kopaska@dnr.iowa.gov. And 515-204-8021 is my phone number. It's my DNR phone number. Just give me a call, and I'll be happy to answer, do whatever I can. You bet.
Cool.
All right, good. Cool. Sounds good.
Other than that, thank you so much, Jeff. We definitely appreciate the knowledge, man.
Absolutely. Anytime. Let's do this again, fellas.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheers.
Cheers.